Hi, welcome to Tips and Tricks. My name is Season Summers, and this week we're going to talk about articulation. I decided to work on this because I think it's important to have options when you're practicing scales, since that's something we should be practicing every day. That can get kind of boring, to be honest, if we don't have some variety. So we're going to learn how to mix it up today. Okay, so this is just a chunk, an excerpt from the free handout that I created. So if you haven't gotten that already, just scan the QR code and you'll get the entire handout, which includes these articulation patterns. So if you don't have your oboe handy, why don't you pause the video and go get your oboe and get a read, because today's video, you can play along with me as we play through some of these. All right, so scale practice is crucial. We have to really know our scales very well, just like the alphabet. We just have to know that to be able to do the job that we're trying to do. So if you know that you have to practice them, sometimes it can feel like you have to practice them, because more often than not, you're probably playing them the exact same way over and over again. And I'm going to guess that if you're a student in Texas, that you're doing the all-state audition scale pattern. Sorry, there we go. Which would be a quarter note, and then eighth notes, quarter note, and then eighth notes, tonguing up, slurring down, right? So we're going to do two things different today. One is we're going to play all eighth notes, and the other is we're going to use all these different articulation patterns. So if this feels overwhelming, remember that you can just do some of these, and you don't have to do all of them, but I wanted to give you a lot of variety. The other thing is I'm going to be speaking to multiple levels of students today, so I will try to give you tips for those of you that find this really difficult, as well as for those of you who initially think this is going to be too easy. We'll try to give you different levels so that you can keep challenging yourself. Okay, so first things first, we're going to play a 1-octave F sharp minor, natural minor scale today, because we have an etude in F sharp minor, right? Etude number 24 is in F sharp minor. So we're going to do that. If you don't have that from memory, it has 3 sharps in it: F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp. And you can also get your major scale sheet out. If you want, you could also look at the A major scale, which has the same key signature, and just start and stop on F sharp if that makes more sense to your brain, or if you're a visual learner and you need something to look at. Or if you have my handout, then you have the F sharp minor scale there as well. So we're going to use that today. I am going to do this with a metronome on to help us all play together, and I'm going to have it at quarter note equals 80, just as a reference for you guys. You can certainly do different tempos on your own. Now, if this seems already for you like this is going to be too easy, then I want to direct your attention over here to where you can see inflection and note length. So once you can play these patterns and you can play the notes and everything feels really even and consistent, then you start thinking about the inflection. So a general tip is to lean on the first note of the slur, particularly when we get to number 3 and beyond, especially where we're alternating between staccatos and articulations. So you'll hear that as we play. And that's just a little air pressure that we add, or you can also use vibrato if you would like to work on vibrato. And then note length, what I'm specifically meaning is how long are your staccatos. There is no right or wrong for this. What I want you to listen for is, do they all sound the same when I play them? So you don't have to match mine, but you need to match yourself, okay? Okay, so let's get started. I'm gonna put the metronome on, and before we play, you're going to see me do this, and that will cue you in to go to the next articulation pattern. All right, so F sharp minor scale, 1 octave only. And again, if this is easy, maybe you do the upper octave and practice your high F sharp. You could do that. So remember, the first note is also an eighth note. All right, so pattern number 1 is all slurred. So I'll count a measure off just so we can get going. So let's play that together. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Oh, and I'm doing a half half note at the end as well. I usually do a whole note, but for the sake of time, we're going to do half notes. So you can choose how long you want your last note to be. You can also practice vibrato on that note. You can practice ending the note nicely. You can do a whole bunch of different things. All right, pattern number 2 without the count off. So you can see that some of these don't end perfectly, right? That one had a slur 3 notes at the end instead of 4 full notes. Don't worry about that, okay? Some of these just won't end that way. And then when you change them to be 2 octaves or, you know, another range, that'll change as well. All right, pattern number 3. Number 4, we have a staccato on the downbeat, and then everything else is the same pattern that we did in number 3, except we're tonguing on the upbeat, so it's going to sound syncopated. Hopefully you could hear that I was leaning on the first note of each slur and then relaxing after that. So we're going to apply that to all the rest of the articulation patterns. So number 5, slur 3, tongue 1. And then number 6 is the inversion of number 5, tongue 1, slur 3. So that's another one that doesn't quite end with the full pattern when we're playing 1 octave. All right, number 7 is slur 2, tongue 2. And then number 8 is the inversion of that, tongue 2, slur 2. And then 9, again, is going to feel syncopated because of where the slurs are. The syncopated ones often are the ones that feel the most uncomfortable. So if that happens to you, that's very normal. Here's number 9. And then number 10, I just want to point out that the opening has 3 notes tongued, but then after that it's only tonguing 2, and that's just because we have to get started. So essentially once you get to here, it's slur 2, tongue 2, slur 2, tongue 2. That's how I would think of that if that is confusing to you. So here's number 10. It'll make more sense after we play it. Least, number 11, where we articulate all of the notes. And again, this can be surprisingly challenging to try and match length. So that's what I want you listening for on this one, is making sure that the notes sound the same length. So number 11, together. Good. So now let's talk about how to actually incorporate this into your practicing a little more. First thing is, please vary the range of your scales, right? If this is really difficult for you, like it was for me when I first started doing it, then start with 1 octave scales, right? And then you don't have to jump from 1 octave to 2, although you can. You could do 1 octave plus 3 notes or plus 6 notes, whatever you want to do. So you can vary how many of the notes, how much of the range you use on the oboe. Next thing that I think is a great idea is having a key of the day, a different key every day, that perhaps you take that one scale and you play all of those articulation patterns on that scale. And I would suggest starting with the scales that you dislike the most, because those probably would benefit the most from that. All right, I know I always say with or without the metronome. That's one of my best tips. If you're someone who always plays with the metronome, then you need to play without it sometimes. And of course, if you hate the metronome, you dread the metronome, then you need to start using the metronome, but vary that. And of course, you can also vary the speed. So I have it on 80 for today for a quarter note. So you can that'll help you pick a tempo that's good based off of your experience playing along today. Experiment with the staccatos. So staccatos, I've mentioned in previous videos that those are subjective depending on the context of the music. So you can practice doing staccatos different lengths. Just make sure that you stick with the same length all the way through. And for that matter, you could also, instead of staccatos, do legatos, tenutos, accents, any other articulation marking. You could exchange that in place of the staccatos if you wanted to try that, right? And above all else, focus on consistency. That is our ultimate goal, right? As a musician, is to be consistent. We need to make decisions and have intentions. Then we want those intentions to come out through our instrument, and then we want those to come out consistently. So that's really important, and that's where this can be really helpful. It can show you where your consistency is so that you can work for it and easily start to notice your progress. Okay, if you guys have any other ideas about articulation practice, or maybe ways that would help you become more consistent with articulation, I would love for you to share those in the comments. And if you have an idea for a video, anything you'd like for me to cover, please feel free to share that as well. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed this week's video, and I will see you next Friday. Bye.